Hi world, and this is my astrological forecast for December 2024. It's been a crazy year. It's been a year of highs and lows, of unexpected changes, of chaos and disorder, but also a lot of joy and pleasure for many people, if not all. And now we're heading into the end of the year. Now, from an astrological perspective, I suggest to you that December 2024 is actually going to be a fair bit quieter. There's going to be a lot of noise, there's going to be a lot of words, and very little substance. So let's first of all look at what's not happening. Uranus, nicely retrograde in Taurus, is hardly being affected by any other planet in the sky at the moment. This will change as we get into the first and second, especially the second quarter of next year, but we can wait for a few months before looking at that. Pluto, moving forward into early Aquarius, is relatively quiet, at least until the very, very end of this month. Neptune is about to stand still and stop going retrograde. This will happen on the 7th of December. Jupiter and Saturn are engaged in their own little dance at the moment, and they're about, a third of the way through a 9-month process of interacting with each other. And Jupiter and Saturn will square each other. Both of them, Jupiter going retrograde, Saturn moving forward. I think it's on the 24th of December. Mars is about to go retrograde. Mars will go retrograde on the 6th of December, the day before Neptune stops going retrograde. Mars retrograde in early Leo suggests that in this last month there's been a lot of bluster. There's been a lot of, we're going to do great things. And now the realism is beginning to bite. And I think that over December, with Mars retrograde in Leo, a lot of the promises seem to be not exactly false, but built on eggshells or built on barrage balloons. Not a lot of substance. We shall see. Venus is about to move into Aquarius. And around the 6th and 7th, as Venus moves into Aquarius, it will immediately conjunct Pluto. Now, this in itself is not really significant, but note the date of this, the 6th, 7th of December. Mercury has just gone retrograde at the end of November, and it will stay retrograde until the 15th of December. And even then, when it moves forward, it'll still be in its retrograde shadow until we're into the 3rd of January. Mercury's retrograde in Sagittarius, a sign that it doesn't like being in because Mercury deals with communication. It deals with analysis, logic, rationality, movement, communication and speech, which is why Mercury rules Gemini, because Mercury's naturally at home here. But Mercury's in its opposite sign to Gemini in Sagittarius. Sagittarius deals with the big picture. Mercury deals with the fine details. So with all this Mercury retrograde, obviously in the first half of the month, normal Mercury retrograde rules apply. Emails will get lost, letters will be late delivered, phone calls will get missed, trains and planes will be delayed. There'll be the normal amount of communication problems for a typical Mercury retrograde. And bearing in mind that Mercury does go retrograde 7 times every 2 years. But this one being in Sagittarius, it makes it a little bit more difficult than normal. Now there is a big picture in December, which I've yet to come to, but let's just give you 1 or 2 more smaller details first. The full moon in Gemini on the 15th of December will be loosely square to Neptune. The Sun and the Moon opposite each other at 24 degrees of Sagittarius Gemini will be square to Neptune at 27 degrees. This is not a massive full moon. It's not a really big deal. Similarly, the new moon in Sagittarius on the very 1st of December is not going to be a massive issue here. There will also be, of course, a new moon in Capricorn at the very end of December. Again, the moons aren't that significant this month. What is significant is the concentration of astrological and astronomical phenomena in a very short space of time. And this is particularly based around the 5th, 6th and 7th of December. It's as if all of a sudden there's a crescendo. There's a lot of planetary activity at this time. Mars will go retrograde. Neptune will stop going retrograde. Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, which belongs to Jupiter, will be opposite Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, which belongs to Mercury. Mercury opposite Jupiter, they're in each other's signs. This is called mutual reception. And it's normally quite a beneficial thing, but they're both retrograde. So Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius is going to be searching for a level of understanding and rationality and getting swamped and bogged down by the big picture, whereas Jupiter, which deals with the big picture, is caught up in the minutiae and the fine-tuning of Gemini. So this suggests to me that there's going to be lots and lots of words, lots of hype and spin, lots of amplification and no substance. But this isn't all. Jupiter is squaring Saturn. This started 3 months ago. It's happening strongly this month and it won't conclude until the middle of next year. And this is something that happens on average every 7 years, 7.5 years. It talks of a financial and economic reset, which seems to be happening in many different countries of the world. But with Mercury opposite Jupiter and squaring Saturn at this time, 4th to the 7th of December, it does suggest that early December is going to see some financial, business and economic news, which might be seen as quite challenging for the planet. And it gets more complicated because the Sun and Mercury retrograde will be conjunct at this time also. The Sun will be opposite Jupiter and squaring Saturn at this time. So all in all, it seems that the period, let's cover myself and give it an extra day each way. The 4th to the 8th of December is very much a microcosm of the macrocosm that December is. I said at the start of this that December is going to be a relatively quieter month than most of the rest of this year, and I stand by that. But I do expect the period of the 4th to the 8th of December to be fraught with lots of ups and downs, restrictions and limitations versus overindulgence and over-expectation. Lots of empty promises, many of them crashing down to earth. There's a lot of excess and shortage at the same time. The wise person here, and here I particularly address myself to those that study astrology, will look at the period of the 4th to the 7th of December and say, I'm not going to believe anything at this time. I'm going to wait and let it all calm down and let the bubbles burst and then see what's going on as you get into, or well into, the second half of December. Mercury's retrograde for the first half of the month. Mars will go retrograde from the 6th onwards. Neptune will stop going retrograde from the 7th onwards. But with Mercury and Mars retrograde in the first half of this month, particularly in the second week, we're not going to get any clarity. And with Mercury not clearing its retrograde shadow till January the 3rd, which incidentally is the day when Mars will be at 1 degree of Leo retrograde, and Pluto will be at 1 degree of Aquarius, with Mars opposite Pluto at the very start of a new year on the day that Mercury retrograde clears its shadow. Well, the Mercury clears its retrograde shadow, I should say. A little peek ahead here. January the 3rd is going to be a really important day for a lot of different reasons. But for the majority of us, and for most of the time in December, you can breathe. You can take a deep breath, and to a certain extent, you can relax. The worst of 2024 is behind us. Just be careful between the 4th and the 8th. Have a great month. And there's going to be a lot of videos coming out at the end of December. I'll be doing my annual forecast for all of you once again. Take care, folks. Bye now.